The canyon air was thin, sharp with dust that stung the lungs. Lieutenant Marcus Hale crouched against a jagged ridge, visor scanning the horizon. He'd been on recon runs before, quiet jobs, in and out, but this felt different. The Valkyrie had moved faster than command predicted. Their patrols were too tight, their scanners too sharp. He'd been out here for 3 days mapping troop movements, and he knew one thing with certainty: if he didn't get back soon, his map would outlive him. He adjusted the scope on his battered rifle. Down below, a column of alien transports crawled along the valley floor, sleek crimson hulls glinting in the twin suns. Each bore the insignia of the Crimson Claws, the Valkyrie Dominion's most arrogant shock troops. Hale counted at least 200 in that column alone. His datachip already held enough proof that the Dominion was fortifying the frontier, but he couldn't pull back now. He needed to see where the supply lines led. A shrill hum broke the air. Hale's visor flashed warning symbols. He spun, but it was too late. The skimmer came in low, engines howling, plasma rifles pointed right at him. He fired once, dropping a soldier who leaned too far from the hatch, then a second shot clipped the pilot's shoulder. The craft wobbled, steadied, and more troopers spilled out. Hale ran. Rocks shattered around him as plasma bolts tore into the ridge. He vaulted down a slope, boots slipping on loose shale, but another skimmer roared into view, cutting him off. He slid to a halt, weapon raised, and realized he was surrounded. A Valkyrie officer barked in their guttural tongue. 4 soldiers slammed him to the ground, wrenching the rifle from his hands. A clawed gauntlet cracked across his jaw. He tasted blood but refused to flinch. They paraded him into a forward camp an hour later. Valkyrie banners fluttered, each a strip of black cloth marked with jagged crimson slashes. Dozens of alien soldiers gathered, curious to see the captured human. They laughed, their voices a mix of hisses and clicks. Commander Karak Vesh stood at the center of it all, towering above his troops. His armor gleamed with gold inlays, ceremonial as much as functional. His mandibles twitched in amusement as Hale was shoved to his knees before him. "So," Vesh said in heavily accented standard, "the Terrans sent children to spy on us." His voice was smooth, calculated, dripping contempt. Hale looked up through a cut swelling over one eye. "Funny," he muttered. "I thought I was doing pretty well until you brought an air show." Laughter rippled through the aliens, though not all of it was genuine. Vesh's gaze sharpened. "You think your defiance means anything? You are prey. Nothing more. Your kind scurries in shadows, snatching crumbs of knowledge. Today, you serve as a lesson." He turned to his soldiers, raising his clawed hand. "Behold! This fragile thing is what dares to challenge the Dominion." The crowd roared approval. Hale stayed silent, jaw clenched. Vesh leaned close, mandibles clacking softly. "We will release you. Not out of mercy, out of sport. 400 of my Crimson Claws will hunt you. You will run. You will beg. And when your bones are picked clean, the galaxy will know humans are vermin." The soldiers cheered. Hale forced a faint smile. 400, huh? Seems unfair." More laughter, sharper this time. Vesh tilted his head, amused. "Unfair, yes, for you." The transport that carried him rattled through broken terrain, flanked by 2 skimmers. Hale sat between 2 armored guards, wrists locked in energy cuffs. He slumped as if beaten, but his eyes flicked constantly, measuring. The Valkyrie were efficient in combat, but routine made them careless. He noted every detail: the guard's thumb tapping against the cuff control, the rifle slung loose across a lap, the driver leaning too far forward as the vehicle hit every rut in the ground. His boot pressed against the floorboard. The thin seam of metal there had a flaw, just enough space to catch the micro-wire hidden in the sole of his boot. It was the oldest trick in the book, but aliens never looked for it. As the vehicle bounced over a ridge, Hale flicked the wire into his cuff lock. A spark, a hiss, and the restraints popped open. The guard beside him barely had time to blink before Hale slammed his elbow into the alien's throat. He grabbed the rifle, swung it up, and fired twice. The second guard collapsed. The driver turned, mandibles wide with alarm. Hale shot him through the chest. The transport skidded sideways, crashing into a boulder. Hale kicked the door open and rolled into the dirt. Plasma fire erupted as the escort's skimmers wheeled around, but he was already sprinting into the jagged maze of rocks. Shots scorched the ground at his heels. A shriek split the air as one skimmer tilted low, searchlights cutting across the canyon. Hale ducked into a narrow crevice, heart pounding. He pressed his back against the stone, listening as alien voices echoed above. "Run!" one called, mocking. "Run, little human!" Their laughter faded as the engines roared away. They weren't worried. Not yet. Hale wiped blood from his mouth, steadying his breathing. He had no rifle now, just the stolen sidearm and whatever he could scavenge. But the terrain was wild, and the Valkyrie believed this was a game. That arrogance was his opening. He climbed higher into the cliffs until the lights of the camp were faint glimmers on the horizon. The night air cut cold, dry against his skin. He crouched low, scanning the valley below where patrols moved like ants. 400 soldiers, armed and armored, hunting one man. They expected a chase, a clean kill, an easy trophy. Hale checked the pistol, counted the charges, and whispered into the wind, almost a vow to himself. "All right. Let's see how many of you I can bury." The Valkyrie didn't waste time. By dawn, the canyons echoed with the roar of engines and the march of armored boots. 400 crimson claws fanned out in disciplined columns, their crimson insignias gleaming in the rising suns. They laughed as they advanced, certain that Terran vermin could not survive the day. From his perch in a fractured cliff, Marcus Hale watched them move. He'd spent the night bleeding from a cut along his ribs, but fatigue didn't dull his focus. The Valkyrie came in squads of 20, spreading wide, covering valleys and ridges. Overconfidence radiated off them like heat. 400, he muttered, fingers tightening on the stolen pistol. "You're making this too easy." The first strike. Hale's trap was crude but effective. He'd rigged a ledge with stolen charges from the wrecked transport. When the first squad entered the ravine below, laughing and shouting to flush him out, he waited until they clustered together. One squeeze of a detonator. The canyon wall roared as rock and dust collapsed, burying 15 Valkyrie alive. The survivors screamed in confusion, plasma bolts firing wildly into the dust. Hale fired from above, 3 clean shots into exposed necks, then slipped back into shadow. By the time the dust cleared, only corpses remained. In orbit, Commander Vesh watched through his command ship's feeds, mandibles flexing. A single man hides in dirt and tricks. He cannot run forever. Psychological cuts. By midday, the hunt grew restless. Troopers complained over comms, their arrogance thinning. Hale made sure of it. He hacked a comm bead from a dead soldier, rerouting it into his visor. When a patrol passed near a dry creek bed, he whispered across their channel. "Still laughing, or is it quieter now?" The aliens froze, scanning the shadows. One hissed, "He's here!" They opened fire into empty stone until their rifles overheated. When silence returned, so did his voice. "Guess not." 2 more squads fell that way, ambushed after wasting energy and discipline. Hale left no bodies intact. He stripped weapons, scattered them in misleading patterns, leaving behind the impression of a ghost who moved faster than logic. The ravaged supply cache. In the evening, Hale found one of their water depots. Valkyrie hydration tanks hummed faintly, guarded by a lazy trio of soldiers. Hale crept close, struck quick, and slit one throat before the others even reached for weapons. He dumped powdered toxins from alien plants into the tanks, stirred, and vanished. Hours later, whole squads staggered and fell where they marched, armor clattering on the rocks. Commanders shouted, discipline faltered, and whispers spread, the human poisons the land itself. Mounting losses? As the sun sank, nearly 100 crimson claws were dead or missing. Panic simmered beneath their discipline. In squads' private chatter, some cursed the hunt, others muttered that the Terran was not prey but predator. Commander Vesh's voice thundered across their comms, cold and furious. "Enough of this cowardice! He bleeds as you do. Find him and break him, Hale answered, cutting across the frequency. I'm still here, Commander. Maybe you're the one bleeding. For the first time, silence followed. Vesh's troops glanced at one another uneasy. A night of fire. Darkness cloaked the canyons. Hale lit small fires in scattered places, herding squads toward a narrow pass. As they approached the glow, thinking they had cornered him, he detonated a mine beneath their feet. The blast turned stone into shrapnel, shredding armor. Those who stumbled from the firestorm were picked off with precision shots. From his cliffside hide, Hale whispered into his recorder, steady voice masking exhaustion. Day 1 attrition working. They don't adapt well. They think in formation in pride. Pride doesn't save you in the dark. Cracks in the hunt. Inside their camps, Valkyrie officers argued. One shouted that they needed to regroup, another demanded they spread further, to cover every crack and cave. Hale listened from a stolen calm, smirking. Confusion was his ally. By morning, they marched slower, watching every shadow. Hale stayed patient. He picked off stragglers, struck where discipline faltered, then melted back into stone. The shift in command. Commander Vesh finally descended from orbit, fury driving him. His crimson-gilded armor gleamed as he addressed his surviving troops. This Terran mocks you. He makes children of warriors. No more games. We move as one, under my command. His troops straightened, their fear masked behind discipline. But their eyes betrayed them, haunted, unsettled, no longer laughing. From his vantage, Hale saw the regrouping. His jaw tightened. He bled them, but Vesh was adapting now, dragging them into one disciplined hammer. If that hammer landed, he was finished. Still, his mouth curved into a grim smile. Good. Come closer. Makes it easier to burn you all at once. Closing beat. As the Valkyrie prepared their united push, Hale crouched in a cliff hollow, laying out scavenged explosives and reloading stolen rifles. His ribs ached, his throat dry, but his eyes stayed sharp. He had turned their laughter into silence, their hunt into fear. He checked the charges, set the timer, and whispered to the night, not as bravado but as a vow. You wanted a hunt, Commander. Let's see who survives it. The canyon lay silent in the gray light before dawn. Wind swept through broken spires, carrying the stench of burned flesh and dust. Marcus Hale crouched among the stones, ribs wrapped in a strip of scavenged cloth, eyes fixed on the valley floor. 400 had begun the hunt. Barely 2/3 remained, and they marched now as one, a crimson tide beneath the banners of their commander. At their head strode Karak Vesh, armor polished, mandibles clattering with restrained fury. He had come down from orbit not as a spectator but as executioner. Hale adjusted the detonator in his palm, feeling its edges cut against calloused skin. His traps were set. He had turned half the canyon into a weapon, lines of charges wired into walls, pressure mines tucked beneath loose shale, energy packs rigged to rupture. This was no running battle. This would be the end, one way or the other. The trap springs. Vesh raised a clawed fist, halting his troops. The ape hides here. I smell his cowardice. At his signal, the Valkyrie poured into the canyon, boots hammering stone. Their voices rose in unison, a war chant echoing against the cliffs. Hale waited until the formation tightened, until pride drove them deeper into the throat of the canyon. Then he pressed the trigger. The earth erupted. Walls collapsed in thunder, boulders raining down in fire and dust. Whole squads vanished beneath stone. Plasma packs ruptured, painting the canyon in waves of blue flame. Screams cut through the chaos, guttural voices breaking in terror. From the cliff, Hale opened fire with a stolen rifle, each shot deliberate, cutting down officers who tried to rally. He shifted positions between bursts, keeping them blind to his location. Cowards! Vesh bellowed, dragging survivors to their feet. Stand and fight! He is one! Hale's voice carried across their calms, calm, almost conversational. One's been enough so far. The chaos deepens. The canyon floor became a slaughterhouse. Valkyrie fired wildly into shadows, striking their own. Explosions rolled like thunder as more mines went off, tearing apart squads who stumbled in panic. Through the dust, Hale moved like a phantom, never staying still, striking, vanishing, reappearing where they least expected. His ribs burned, his legs shook with exhaustion, but precision kept him alive. Every shot mattered. Every step was calculated. Fear gnawed at the Valkyrie ranks. Soldiers shouted over one another, begging for orders. Some broke and tried to flee back toward the canyon mouth, only to be caught in secondary charges. Above it all, Vesh stood unmoving, fury radiating off him. He saw his elite force unraveling, their laughter turned to shrieks. The duel. Hale's rifle clicked empty. He dropped it, sliding down the cliff into the smoking battlefield. He landed hard, knees jarring, pistol already drawn. Dust swirled, fire lit the canyon in hellish glow. Vesh spotted him instantly. "There you are," he growled, voice booming. "No more shadows. Face me." He strode forward, drawing twin plasma blades that ignited with a hiss. The surviving Valkyrie fell silent, forming a loose ring around them. To them, it was no longer a hunt. It was spectacle. Hale steadied his pistol, fired twice. Vesh deflected both bolts with effortless sweeps. Hale circled, eyes darting, gauging terrain, distances, options. He had none. "You hid behind rocks and fire," Vesh snarled, advancing. "Now you die by a warrior's hand?" "Funny thing," Hale said through ragged breaths. "You keep calling me prey. But I'm the one thinning your herd." Vesh roared, lunging. Blades carved arcs of molten light. Hale rolled aside, firing again, one bolt glancing off the commander's shoulder. The smell of scorched armor filled the air. They circled amid wreckage and corpses, predator against predator. Hale dodged, countered, used every ounce of speed. Vesh pressed forward, overwhelming, relentless. Each strike sent shockwaves through stone. The last gambit. Hale stumbled back onto a cracked platform where he had hidden his final charge. His hand brushed against the remote in his belt. He knew he wouldn't win in a duel. But he didn't need to. Vesh raised both blades high, mandibles wide in triumph. "Your tricks end here." Hale looked him in the eye and smiled, blood running down his cheek. "No. They end with you." He thumbed the detonator. The ground erupted beneath them. The platform shattered, fire ripping upward in a geyser of stone and heat. Vesh was hurled back, armor cracked, mandibles shrieking in agony. Hale was thrown hard into rubble, ears ringing, body aflame with pain. Smoke cleared. Vesh crawled forward, armor scorched, one blade guttering. His fury dimmed to disbelief. Impossible! One man, not one man! Hale dragged himself upright, pistol trembling in his hand. He stepped closer, pressing the barrel to the commander's chest. His voice was a whisper but cut through the canyon like steel. "Tell your Dominion. Humanity bows to no one." He fired. Vesh collapsed, lifeless. The silence after. The battlefield hushed. The surviving Valkyrie stared at their fallen commander, fear etched across every face. None moved to avenge him. None dared. Hale lowered the pistol, staggering. His vision blurred, lungs burning. He didn't know how many remained, 50, maybe fewer, but he knew the truth. They weren't hunters anymore. They were witnesses. He turned his back on them, climbing toward a shattered beacon tower. Each step was a battle against collapse. At the top, he activated the signal. A blue flare shot into the sky, marking the field for Terran forces. He spoke into the beacon, voice steady despite exhaustion. "This is Lieutenant Marcus Hale, United Terran Defense. The Valkyrie Dominion just lost 400 elites to one human. Consider that your report." Static crackled, then silence. Epilogue beat. Hours later, as Hale slumped against the beacon, distant engines echoed, the sharp hum of Terran gunships inbound. He closed his eyes, letting the sound wash over him. On the canyon floor, whispers spread among the broken Valkyrie, of a human who fought like death itself, who turned a hunt into a massacre. And across the stars, that story would carry weight. No one would laugh at humanity again.